Hi, I'm Barb Munson, and I'm a leadership consultant and event speaker. And if you are facing high employee turnover and disengagement, I customize a plan with you so that you can keep your rock stars happy and wanting to stay. Today, we're going to talk about managing the unthinkable, what to do when your best employees want to leave. Look, I know that turnover is really high right now. Everyone is facing it and people are burned out, they're understaffed. So I want to walk through the three things that you need to keep in mind to retain your best employees. Before I jump in though, I do want to emphasize that there are a lot of leadership challenges that have emerged the past few years, and they have caused everyone to throw out the rule book. Old solutions aren't working. Whether it's this topic or another one, all leaders struggle. All leaders struggle with something. So don't look at this as something that you should have been able to figure out, or self-criticism where, why don't I know how to do this? You're close to it and you care about it. And sometimes that makes it really hard to solve. So let's talk about the three things that you need to know. The first one that we're going to talk about is approaching an employee that you suspect is looking around, or maybe he or she has already given notice. Now, let's be honest, there are some employees where it hurts a little more than others when they leave. So how do you deal with that? How do you keep your best employees? Well, when I was inside the corporate arena as an employee, I used to mentor colleagues and even my own employees on what to consider first when thinking about pursuing other opportunities. I spent 26 years in corporate finance in a variety of roles, all the way from working a clerical temp job to being a CFO and a whole lot in between. So I had a lot of practice doing this job assessment myself, as well as guiding others through it. It has yet to fail me. I want to share this with you because I want you to see it from both sides of the desk and to give you some things to watch out for with your own employees. Now, I know that didn't answer your question. Okay, well, what about the person that just quit? We will bring it back to that, I promise. So just hang with me. So what this looks like, first, just at the employee level, put yourself in the mind of an employee. It's three questions that you would ask yourself before giving notice. The first one looks at your immediate environment. It's the environment question. Do I like my day-to-day environment? Do I like my daily work and I enjoy it? There's excitement there, there's challenge. Do I like the space I'm in? And do I get along with my coworkers? Is this a happy place to work? Now, I know that some of that has changed with hybrid, work arrangements, remote work. Even if you are a 100% remote workforce, you have an environment. It doesn't have to be in a building. It's part of your culture. And everyone is feeling the environment, whether they are sitting in their office or yours. So I always tell people, assess your immediate environment. The second question is a horizon question beyond the immediate environment. So I'm asking you to be forward-looking here. Is there opportunity for growth beyond your current position or your current circumstances? It could be a promotion. It could be an opportunity to work on different projects, different experience even outside of your own team, that you can maybe maintain your current job, but you have another exposure to something different. Do you feel like you will be stuck if you outgrow what you are currently doing? That's looking at the horizon. Now, once you've looked at your current environment and you've looked at your horizon, it's time for that third question. Am I fairly compensated for what I do? Now, that one tends to be a hot button. Everyone wants more money, of course, I get it. But if you are being reasonable, if what you are being compensated, fair. So what do you do with these questions? Again, if you were an employee in that seat, I would advise you to consider those three questions, and most of the time, you should be able to just answer yes immediately to 2 out of 3. Now, there are seasons. I said most of the time, I said 2 out of 3. That's because sometimes it's crunch time. Sometimes you're doing something difficult. Sometimes maybe there's a little staffing transition so that things aren't the way they should be. But generally speaking, most of the time, 2 to 3, you should be getting really strong yes answers. If you find yourself starting to say no to those questions consistently, it's still not time to quit. It's time to ask, is it fixable? Now, if you have gone through that assessment, you have been trying really hard, you've communicated to your manager or whomever would be able to affect whether it's fixable, and you're still answering no, then it's time to make a change. Now, let's get back to your side of the desk, leaders. In my experience, money, while it's very important, it's never the first thing that prompts someone to look around. It's typically when the environment and the horizon, the growth opportunity, when those become dissatisfying, something gets off or they get frustrated, then they start to notice the money. They feel frustrated and they think, I'm not even being paid for this. So now the money starts to bother them. Now that is not a license to underpay people or not be doing the right thing by market standards. I'm just letting you know that that's typically not the first thing. So as you have conversations, as you look around your own environment, as you look at your employees, consider all 3 of those things together because they are all affecting each employee, whether they are aware of these questions or not. It's the underlying elements of a job that affect how they feel day to day. So if you have an employee who has given notice or you think is giving notice soon, those are 3 questions that you would ask that person. What's making them either consider leaving or decide to leave? Ask them about their immediate environment. Ask them those forward-looking questions and ask them how they feel about their compensation package. Now, this means you need to ask them the tough questions that frankly you might not want the honest answers to, but that kind of comes with leadership too. You need to have the honest answers if you want to slow down turnover and increase engagement. Now, leaders, you will not please everyone and you will not get it right every time. But if you are only focusing on 1 or 2 of those 3 areas, you're not getting the full picture. And here's the brilliant part. You are in the position to help each of your employees determine that second step question. Is it fixable? You have a lot of power and influence there. So if you suspect that someone's looking around, don't wait. Come to them and just say, you know what? I feel a little unsettled about our work environment, the amount of stress, the amount of turnover. I really value you. I would really like to have an honest conversation about where you're at. Can we do that? Do that in your own language, of course, and whatever's appropriate for your culture. But ask the questions. And before you engage in that conversation, I want you to do that for yourself. I want you to think, what does a good environment look like? And is this it? What opportunities or experiences have you had in mind for your rock stars? Or have you completely forgotten to pay attention to that? And finally, know the market. Use your HR department, use all of your resources, make sure that you are being fair with compensation. And I know there are other dynamics at play here when it comes to environment and team and remote versus hybrid that have changed drastically. And they're creating a lot of conflict and resistance. So some of these conversations are a little more complex than they were a few years ago. And we're actually going to talk about that more in the next video. So if you are struggling with the team aspect and building a team culture or getting people engaged in the team, you aren't going to want to miss that one. We will dig into all of that. And I look forward to seeing you there.